said Pat is planning.
He did say he was planning on coming.
Okay.
Yep.
Where are you? Yeah.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. The time is now 1:01, and we are having a meeting of the Finance Committee to talk about the Esri Small Government Enterprise Agreement Annual Subscription and Advantage Program, or in other words, we're talking about the expansion of our contract with Esri. On the Finance Committee, I am the chair, Corey Williams. We also have Councilor Hogan and Councilor Monto. I do know that Councilor Paniagua is on her way. In addition, we're joined by Councilor Nave and Councilor...
Don't forget my.
Oh, I know, right? Why am I blanking? Councilor Geathers, thank you. And at the table with us is Connor Muldoon, the Deputy Chief Innovation and Data Officer in the Office of Accountability, Performance, and Innovation. That's the longest title running in City Hall, I think.
It might be.
Yep. And as we get going, I'd just like to state for the record that I'm a fierce advocate of our government and of our policies being informed and driven by data. And for this to occur, I recognize and realize that we have to provide the people with the tools they need to make that happen. With that being said, Connor and I have spoken a number of times, and I think that we all need a little bit more information before this is brought to the full council. There's a lot of nuance to the proposal and its timeline, and it represents a significant expansion of our contract with Esri, and I'm hoping that you can provide us with some of that detail today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Councilor. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today about this software expansion, and thank you to a handful of people in the room from a number of departments who use this software on a daily basis. I can see representatives from NBD, Water, DPW, Parks, and Finance in the room, and I may have missed one or two as well. The goals for today's discussion are to understand what this software is, understand who uses it across the city, understand how we're seeking to improve city operations and enable new functionalities through this investment, and understand what's going to change with this proposal. So moving on here, there's a presentation behind you, councilors, if you can see that. So what is Esri? Esri is the city's Geographic Information Systems software, or GIS. Right? It is a system used to capture, store, manipulate, analyze, manage, and present spatial or geographic data. So that's anything that you can find a location on a map, satellite imagery, aerial photographs, survey data, or demographic information. And GIS is used in a wide range of tools, wide range of fields. It is a foundational tool for and digital component of our digital ecosystem. Who uses GIS today in the city of Syracuse? We have approximately 50 users right now across about a dozen different departments, very heavily used in NBD and API, but also some significant users in DPW, parks, permits, et cetera. Our current licensing agreement does not provide us enough seats to meet the demand. Every single week, we are having requests for more users that we are not able to provide. This proposal will help to alleviate that problem. How do departments use GIS today? GIS is used in 3 core components. We're getting into a little bit of details as well.
Can you go back? So
Yes,
how many seats do we have now, and how many do you need? So how many more are we getting compared to what we have now?
I'll get into all of that. We currently have 50 licenses, so we do have 1 or 2 more. We have far more requests than that. I'd say dozens or so. This proposal will give us 1,000 licenses, so functionally unlimited licenses for a city our size. Great. So how is GIS used today? It's used in 3 main components, aiding operations, analysis, and communications. Image on the left is of a water crew collecting data in the field. That can be done sometimes with just a cell phone or sometimes with special high-tech equipment where precise measurements are required. It aids in spatial analysis, examining trends over time, for example, quantifying the number of properties impacted by an infrastructure investment. And it's a crucial component for our communications platforms when we need to share maps and define boundaries to residents and constituents. There are hundreds of ways that city staff use GIS today. Here are just a few quick examples of some really strong success stories that we've done in the past. This is an image of our rental registry. It's used to analyze properties and administer the rental registry This is a neighborhood in Brighton looking at residential multifamily properties that are on and not on the registry. Here's an example from our Syracuse housing study, looking at neighborhood trends seen on this map, a very high-polished, detailed example of how neighborhoods are changing and how we compare across neighborhoods and to the region. We developed an in-house tool to communicate to the public which phase of the sanitation cart rollout that residents would be able to use. So it's interactive and public-facing. Residents were able to search for their address and understand, are you on phase 1, are you on phase 2? How do you get prepared for this coming operational change? Esri powers our open data platform. We currently have over 100 data sets containing everything from parking violations, Sears City Line requests, water main breaks, et cetera, that is available to the public for them to analyze and use for their own needs. We currently use Esri to inventory public assets, understand where we could provide new or improved services. This is an example of a new pavilion that was installed in Berry Park over the past year. And we use Esri for planning infrastructure investments. Here's a map of our bike infrastructure here from 2022. And yes, this Esri does power our snowplow map. I did receive some questions about, is this an expansion just to provide some additional, widgets and gadgets like this, or is it something else or broader? It clearly is something broader. So, what is in this proposal today? Currently, the city of Syracuse spends between $85,000 and $90,000 per year on a limited number of licenses and analysis credits. As just mentioned, Councilor Monto, this agreement will provide Syracuse with nearly unlimited licenses and credits, and it's also going to move our infrastructure up to the cloud, some significant improvements here. It's going to increase our data storage, make things run faster and more effectively. It's going to enhance our cybersecurity, and it will reduce the amount of effort that city IT needs to support these investments. The proposed cost above the $85,000 to $90,000, not above, but the proposed new cost is $113,000 per year, a net increase of about $23,000 to $28,000. That's the first component of this proposal. The second component of this proposal is the Advantage program. It's a set of professional services to make sure that we are leveraging this investment properly and getting the most out of our dollars. Right? Two components to this proposal are technical guidance, ensuring that as we move things up into the cloud, we're doing so in the right way, and that we're integrating with other softwares effectively. So we have things like single sign-on, so that our Microsoft accounts, our Sear.gov accounts can sign into our Esri accounts. Integrating with CityWorks for enterprise asset management, integrating with ERPs, PeopleSoft and Oracle Cloud. The second component here, and this is a very crucial one, is capacity building. We want to make sure that we're providing city staff with the right training to analyze the data, collect data in the field, and be ready as an organization to grow our capacities here. This is a 3-year agreement on the Advantage program side. It's an average annual cost of about $143,000 for the 3-year term. If we find that we have learned everything that we possibly need to know about Esri and we're good to go, then we don't need to renew that. So the one on the left is annual ongoing, the one on the right is a 3-year agreement. And a big question that I've received over the past several weeks is, how will this improve city operations and save money? Right? There are two core components here. The first one is just general increased efficiency and output. Things that used to take 3 hours are going to take 1 hour. And so we'll see some savings there. That's fantastic. But the big opportunities here are improved department coordination. Things like enhancing our Dig Once program, right? I was talking with our Chief Operating Officer, Corey Dunham, talking about how on her street on Standish Drive, there was a big road reconstruction project last year, and because of some new analysis that's identified a high number of lead service lines on that street, we're going to have to go in and dig up that street again. And our goal is to prevent that from happening to the greatest degree possible. That is my proposal. That is those are my perspectives, and I'm open to any questions that you all may have.
How much goes to the cloud now? Like, how much does that change with this?
So right now we have some on-premise servers is the alternative from cloud infrastructure. Those are aging and costly, and moving everything up to the cloud, similar with the investment to Office 365. And also, just in terms of like the amount of data, by using this more effectively and collecting more data, we're going to be growing that need very significantly. So we would be reaching the limits of our on-premise capacities in very, very soon.
So remind me, where's this money coming from? And are we starting on the next fiscal year, or are we doing it this year?
Yeah, so we're looking to start now. We're ready to go. We have the opportunity to do it now. We have the funding identified. This would be accompanied with an accompanying budget transfer from unused dollars that the budget director will be bringing to accompany this proposal here. But we could start now, and we're eager to start now.
Where are the unused dollars coming from, Budget Director?
It'll all be in the budget transfer, but I think it'll probably come from the special object, the allocation for allowance for negotiation funds that we don't plan on spending right now.
Negotiation of what?
Well, we set aside $4 million in
For
the
the
current
money-
budget for various pay corrections and stuff, and we're not going to spend $4 million on that.
That wasn't the $4 million we set aside for the study and the non-union. Is it the same monies? Corey?
It's set aside for non-union, yes.
It is. So it's
Non-union.
set aside for the study and the non-union raises and all that.
It was set aside for the raises, yeah. Well, so I think it's an increase. The way he described it, it's roughly 170,000 more. So we would be doing a transfer in that amount to pay for it now. So if it goes on, then whatever agenda it goes on, it requires a budget transfer simultaneously to have the money.
Right. And then we'll enter a contract that'll be the next 3 fiscal years?
So we have a 3-year agreement. We currently have an agreement right now
Right,
with this
sure.
company that is a September to September term. We're looking to enter into a 3-year agreement starting now that would be a February to February term, and so there's different components of this fiscal year, future fiscal years, et cetera. I've got an appendix slide here about what we're looking to do in the current fiscal year. So this would be from now through July. These are the planned activities that we're looking to do over the next 2 years of the Advantage program, and the third year we'll develop that plan as we come to it. There are 3 activities here that we think are really crucial to starting now, which is understanding how to best collect data in the field, particularly with our Parks Department, so that we can help to provide the foundation for future asset management, work order management, and inventory management functions. And so these 3 things we're looking to start now. So the fiscal year, the dollar value of the services to be received in the current fiscal year are about $26,000.
And the money that we're allocating, does that include training of our people?
Absolutely, yep. So we'd be ready to start that training. I know we have right here the 3 activities that we're looking to start in the immediate term, but the training could also align concurrently with that or immediately following.
What items are we expanding from? Like what currently do we do versus what we are looking at doing?
So currently, really it's on the left side of this table here. We currently spend $85,000 to $90,000 for those 47 seats that I showed up front and access to software. And then we have to pay sometimes piecemeal for analysis credits. This is basically going from buying a la carte to buying wholesale, right? We're looking to have functionally unlimited licenses and credits and improve the infrastructure for the way that we do things now. That's the one side of the change from our baseline that would be really consistent. And the additional thing is the professional services to make sure that we're doing this expansion correctly and getting the most for our investment.
So to me, the jump for the unlimited license is that, seems like an easy leap to me. The 143 or 144 in terms of the Advantage program, can you go into a little more detail about actual projects that might be helpful, or departments that are, you mentioned that you have dozens of people asking and requesting for, for access to the platform. What are we talking about, and can we recoup any of that $143,000 based upon, either efficiencies or,
So the Advantage program is really where we see those operational efficiencies, right? By doing things faster, more effective, having authoritative data sets that we don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? When we have a data set of street networks that Right now, we might have 2 or 3 different versions that have different needs on them, right? One for sanitation, one for snowplows, one for something else, road reconstruction, and having standardized data sets that will be created through this program, through this coaching, and better trained on how to utilize those things more effectively. That's part of the Advantage program there. These 3 activities that we're really looking to start are foundational precursor activities to what we hope to go through in the next year or so on enterprise asset management. And so that's things like, as I mentioned, work order management, inventory management, and asset management. Let me give you an example of what that might look like. Right? I had my kids at Berry Park this weekend, and there was a broken piece of playground equipment. A little seahorse, rocking horse thing was broken. I took a picture of it, and I put it in Sears City Line for somebody to come and identify and fix, right? What those investments would enable, so this is this Esri Advantage program plus some things down the road. So this is not an immediate example, it's laying the foundation for this in the near term, right? That Sears City Line request would create a work order for someone in the Parks Department that next day to see on their email, their phone, whatever, to say, oh, I know automatically already that there's something that needs to be investigated. I'm going to go take a look at it. I'm going to confirm, yes, it's broken, it needs fixing. I'm going to look in the inventory of that existing playground equipment and say, yes, we have that part and we can make that repair. I'm going to assign that to somebody in skilled trades. It's going to automatically confirm back to the resident this change is going to be happening in X amount of time, and we're going to shorten that period for how we can provide constituents better services. Now, I want to be very clear that that is something that we're working towards having the capabilities of doing, and this is the foundation, the expansion of this foundation to be able to do that in the near future.
So I got to ask, did that get fixed or what? Josh?
I haven't taken my kids back since then.
Very good. You're already checking, aren't you? Okay.
So, near future defined as what?
We want to start this effort now so that we can start that effort as soon as is responsible and is feasible and responsible. We're really hoping that we can do some of that very soon. You see some of these activities here say EAM planning support, EAM and JS integration, et cetera, et cetera. We want to use these experts to say, are we ready to make those investments into those new functionalities, and what do we need to do to ensure that we're doing so in a responsible manner?
See, that's one of the reasons I asked the training question. I mean, obviously, this is great. I think this is great. We identify the problem, but the solution's still at the other end. So we have to integrate our people into understanding that.
So that's just one benefit of going into this agreement. I know that we have members here from various other departments who can talk with more functional expertise on how they would use this training in these programs, and whether it's from new licenses or new capabilities with the enterprise software. I know our water department is very eager to make these investments. They've already made those investments in other softwares that they're only utilizing at about 75% capacity because they don't have some of these infrastructure, cloud architecture type things that can take us to the next step. But there are so many additional things beyond just this one example of enterprise asset management that this lays the foundation for.
I know with the Housing Task Force, as far as myself and President Hudson, it's amazing how much information has been garnered about the housing situation in the city of Syracuse. And this is all this data-driven program.
I have to ask, RFP waiver.
We already have an existing agreement with Esri. This is, I would need the law department to say this with their legal perspective, but I believe this is just an amendment of our existing relationship here. Esri is the main player in this field. They're really the only game in town. The transition costs, if we could even find a vendor who could do half of what we know that we can do with Esri, the transition costs alone would make that a very challenging decision point.
Well, I have to ask, as far as the plowing portion, I don't know if that breaks out into any dollar amount at all, but since the start of that to date, is there a significant decline in the amount of plowing according to the reporting due to global warming per se?
So plowing is a unique consideration here, especially from a performance management perspective. We have a few different things that are happening here. One is that every storm is different, and whether it's intensity, its amount of snow, where it's happening in the neighborhoods, it's really challenging to put complex metrics around how well we're doing. Our goals as a city are always to ensure that we have 100% of our roads cleared within 24 hours, and that's something that we have been able to achieve, and this really helps our teams do that. We also are experiencing right now some climate change impacted by El Nino, and we have a very, you saw in the paper just today, there was an article about our very low year of snow to date. I am not a meteorologist. I would imagine that will bounce back to a higher number going forward, but the city of Syracuse takes snow plowing very seriously. We want to make sure that we have the best tools available, and we do have the most tech-enabled platforms in I would argue the country for snow plowing. So our crews, we've given them the tools to make sure that they can do their job as effectively as possible.
Well, Connor, I
But
mean, with the
but we
coordination,
don't have
I'm sorry.
data for that, basically.
I'm sorry?
But you don't have any data to show when you started it in, I don't know what year you started.
About 3 years ago.
To date.
I-
Then,
We do have gigabytes and gigabytes of data of where were our plows and how did they perform, that sort of thing. What we don't have is a highly polished report that says here's the 3 numbers that prove that we did X, Y, and Z. We know that our crews utilize these tools very effectively, and that we are very confident in our ability to continue using these tools in the future for future storms.
What you said, we had talked earlier about the multi-department, like the parked cars, for instance. So that information goes over to the police department, and that there's a response?
That's correct. So we've actually used a different tool within the Esri ecosystem to change how that gets reported at dispatch, right? So we used to use a fairly antiquated set of emails from dispatch to the police department to coordinate that. Right now we have a form in Esri that fills those things out and automatically puts those locations on this map so that residents can know in fairly real time what streets cannot be serviced by plows because of illegally parked cars. So that's a really good example of why we want to continue working with Esri, because of the vast number of different functionalities and tools that integrate together to improve our operations.
So as we get along, we would be able to find out how many tickets were issued for those parked cars?
Absolutely.
I was going to ask you about city line. So when people call in potholes and whatever issues, is this will be used, make it quicker to answer requests for potholes or any other incidences, like if there's an emergency?
So it will help to enable the interdepartment coordination required to fix the problem. So City Line will continue to function as is. They get, I think, 30 to 35,000 calls per year, and those crews are constantly working to answer those calls and emails. Once those issues are assigned to the departments, these investments will help to ensure that we have the right resources available to fit, whether it's to fill a pothole, to replace a broken piece of playground equipment, to respond to a water main break, all those sorts of things.
So then each of these departments, once they get the assignment, they call whoever is generating the claim to let them know that somebody's working on it.
So and then just to clarify, that is a future functionality that we're looking to grow into. We need to invest in the things that are in this proposal first before we can take on something like that. But the way that you just described, it's exactly correct, that we would be able to automatically inform back to the resident. We already do this in City Line, but we would be able to connect the many different pieces of department coordination required that will fix that problem faster. And so residents will continue to be informed automatically that their problem has been acknowledged, their problem has been fixed. It's just going to shorten the time frame for us to be able to do that.
I just think that communication is key. It's not how fast you can fix the hole. It's communication, so people know that somebody's on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So 3 years from now, $145,000 for the Advantage program.
Yep.
What would be a scenario in which we would seek to continue that contract, and what would be the scenario where we would, not want to renew that?
I haven't thought about that. That's a great question. I think we're going to see, we hope to see, so much growth from this investment that it's sort of it's a complete different way of looking at how city government harnesses technology to function better, right? There are expectations from residents now about where is my package? You know, it should be delivered within 24 hours, all that kind of stuff, right? And that we have a responsibility as a city government, an obligation to invest in those capabilities to meet those expectations. And 3 years from now, I think that we could have a far better integrated set of communications and operational responses to the challenges that our workers are facing. That's a very broad answer, but it is something that this lays the foundation for future years and for future administrations.
So kind of shrinking that timeline, 12 months from now.
Yeah.
You know, if we go ahead and vote on this and we authorize the purchase, 12 months from now, how will you define success with the program?
I would think that we would have collected data in the field that we currently don't have, whether it's our Parks Department, our DPW, or MBD, et cetera. We have access to new information. We're sharing it more effectively. We've created new analyses and new insights into this data that we didn't even know was possible because it doesn't exist currently. And being able to take those insights and derive new and better targeted services to residents from the data, the analysis, and the programs that come out of that, that's how I think we would measure success.
So, being that this is for the purchases of different licensing, what mechanical devices will we need to then upgrade to as far as like, I don't even know what you call that, all that wired system stuff?
Yeah. So that's actually one of the really big benefits of that is that we basically rent a piece of their database up in the cloud, right? By going into this enterprise agreement, we no longer have to maintain those servers and pieces of hardware that's our responsibility now. That becomes somebody else's responsibility. And so that makes it far more easier and streamlined and reduces the load on our IT department and things like that. A number of our in-field employees do have cell phone devices, so working with IT to make sure that they have the right softwares on those devices so that they can capture that information and in real time send it to the people who need it.
Just thinking, so you'll coordinate this with all the other departments. I mean, when a city councilor gets a call about when Tompkins Street's going to get new sidewalks, you'll be able to plug in and find out the answer and get it to you.
Not necessarily me personally, but there's a network of, already the 50 people who are using this now, and it's going to grow to probably a couple of hundred. So yes, that functionality will exist so that our communications department can work with our DPW, can work with our NBD, all of those integrated and important parts to be able to say, here's a planned infrastructure investment, here are the businesses and residents that we need to communicate this to, here are the communications that we're making, we have records of all of that information, and now we feel that we're ready to make those investments out in our neighborhoods.
So you're going to print out reports, because as district counselors, we want to know what has been done, what's going to be done, because people are going to be calling every day, what's going on. At least we can have these reports.
Yeah, this lays the groundwork for that functionality so that we can say right now, for example, think about potholes, right? We don't have one integrated system where we can say in real time how many potholes got filled this week, how many got filled last month, how many got filled 2 years from now, right? That data exists, but it exists in silos, it exists on spreadsheets, it's not in the right place, right? This lays the foundation for us to be able to say in real time, we know what work got done, where, when, by whom, how fast it took, all those sorts of pieces of information. This lays the groundwork for that type of functionality in hopefully the next year or so.
So if each department is inputting data in real time, right? Is that what you're saying? Then how much of a staff, how many, do we need a full-time staff to do this, or?
That's one of the benefits right now of going into the Advantage program is that it provides, over the next two years, we have planned almost 600 hours of experts' time to help us grow these capacities, right? Right now, we have staff across all of our departments who currently do this. They're just probably not doing it in the most effective and efficient way. So by taking on that training, that coaching, that expert guidance, we'll be able to take on these new functionalities with our existing staff.
How long is training? Is training provided by the
By the software provider, by Esri. Yep.
And how long is training?
We'll need to develop that with them. We'll need to sit down and say, where are our strengths? Where are our weaknesses? What trainings do we need to focus on? Who needs to receive them? And we'll develop a pretty comprehensive plan for that.
I'm trying to formulate my question here. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going for, but I work for the district as a data analyst and the city schools. And one thing that has become clear to me in my 10 years over there is that all of the data in the world isn't helpful unless you have processes that enable you to take advantage of that knowledge and that insight. Do we have a vision or the capacity to shift what we're doing in order to integrate this within each of the departments that are sitting out in the audience?
So the way that each department will utilize new functionalities and things like that is really up to those departments. But we very much plan to create a steering committee or working group that will, on a regular basis, be interfacing with these experts to help understand our current strengths and weaknesses and where we can grow. And so the capacity exists, the staff exists, and we're going to give them the tools that they need to get their jobs done better.
But to be, not to be critical or anything, but to make this work efficiently, you mentioned silos. There's got to be somebody oversee this that makes this a critical thing. Saying that because we want this information, we want the data, and we want it to be used efficiently and all that. So somebody, I don't know, I can't imagine how the person is selected in every department to do this.
How does each
How's
department?
Yeah, how's the department? I know the water department only had one person as part of it, right? Imagine it's a commissioner, right, Commissioner? Oh, it's the guy you bring with you. Okay. Yeah. So how do you get selected? You just said you're in charge?
Good afternoon, Joe Awald, Commissioner Water. So for us, this is a huge benefit for us. So right now we have one GIS specialist, that's his title. So as new water mains get installed for capital projects or maintenance work, he goes out and locates all of the stuff that we do, brings it back, imports it into GIS, and we have it as our online maps to use for our work order system that we've already developed. So to Connor's point, like our work order system is through CityWorks, and we develop, based on the assets we have that need work, we can assign work orders to them, assign it to the crews on the tablets, they perform the work, they tally up their labor, the materials and all that. We have a full cost of what that maintenance work entailed for our department and that asset. So utilizing GIS Enterprise gives us another layer of data analytics. We will be able to use condition rating for all of our assets. For example, if we go out and do an inspection on a fire hydrant and we notice that the caps are broken, needs new chains, needs new paint, this enterprise system will help us use the analytics within CityWorks to categorize what condition it is and then how soon we need to replace it. And then we can track that over time. If the condition of that hydrant decreases, all right, we need to start putting investment into that hydrant or replace it. Gives us a great capital planning tool going forward.
You'll be able to identify needs quicker, right?
Yes. Yep.
Does this system work currently for the trash carts or no? Well, let me rephrase that. Does it work in helping track where tickets were given?
Great question. Okay, so I'm trying to provide a good answer here because it's a fairly complex one. We've made investments over the past year in 2 different functionalities within our trash program beyond just the carts. Right? We've entered into an agreement with a different software provider, Rubicon. They provide the tablets that sit at the front of snowplows and sanitation trucks. That allows for better communication between the drivers and dispatch and service verification. Did I do all of the houses that I was supposed to? Did I get all the plow all the streets that I was supposed to? Are there any issues? That sort of thing. We're also working with them to optimize our routes for sanitation and snowplows so that we haven't looked at those in a good amount of time. I think the sanitation routes have been consistent since the 1960s. City's grown and changed since then. We should get under the hood and say, can we be doing that better and more effectively? So that's one software system that does have geographical GIS components, and it can integrate with this work here. The other system that you asked about was sanitation violations and fines. The other investment that we've made as a city over the past year is in our Ames parking attendant meters. And we've, first in the nation, been able to take a different module of that component and help to improve the ability of our on-the-ground workers to document and compile any evidence for those violations. That all gets into one streamlined system for administrative adjudication, billing, et cetera. All of that work flows through our Azure data warehouse. That is a cloud system, works seamlessly with Esri. And so to answer your question, yes, this software can enhance the functionality of our sanitation department. We've already made some pretty significant investments in our sanitation technology, cloud platforms and geospatial awareness of where our service providers are. But yes, we could take this technology and do more and additional things with our sanitation. We've already moved the needle on sanitation pretty far in the past year or so.
Since you did bring up the Rubicon software, and the potholes were already mentioned, we were discussing a week or two ago about the responsibility on residents to continue to report potholes, and then if it's not reported, I think we had a meeting about an accident or something, and if it's not reported in the system and then there's damage to someone's vehicle, technically the city isn't liable. The Rubicon equipment, does it have the ability to show when the vehicle hits a pothole, or even, I don't know if it's like camera type of situation where it would see a pothole on a street to help with identifying where they are versus relying on residents reporting them?
Not automatically when measuring the jostle of the truck or things like that, but there are functionalities and buttons on that tablet where you can report an issue, and that could be configured to say all sorts of different issues, illegal dumping or what have you. But a pothole identifier could be part of that system, the existing
That would
system.
be great if that's not there, if that could be added.
We can definitely start that conversation. Absolutely. So we've talked about a number of different things, even beyond just Esri GIS, right? We've talked about enterprise asset management. We've talked about sanitation and Rubicon. We've talked about billing and Ames. Just to put us back to this proposal, this is a proposal that lays the foundation for continued growth of those types of capabilities as a city government. And doing so with a net increase of $28,000 on one side, and training and professional services on average about $143,000 per year for 3 years is from one perspective, an extremely cost-effective way to grow our capabilities as a city.
Anything else?
Yes. And I'm gonna stop. But you have pointed out all of the pros on the application, but other than training individuals, that may be the one con. Has there been anything from departments saying like we're not getting it? Like, is there?
They're not ready for it, or they don't understand?
They don't understand certain things.
Okay. I mean, we have representatives here from 8 or 10 departments who, are currently using GIS and have already experienced some of those limitations about licensing and performance and cybersecurity, all that sort of stuff. If anybody has a perspective on how this will grow, I'm very happy to welcome it. But I have not yet heard a department say, I don't understand why we would do this, or I don't want to do this.
No, not why. More or less, like it's a difficult thing now versus us adding on more items.
So just to understand your question, that the current system today is not doing what we need it to?
Because of the human ability to do it, yes.
I think the biggest issues there are number of users, and that we have more users who want to use the system than we currently can provide. And I strongly believe that there are, certainly in our department, there are a number of users who want to grow those skills but don't currently have access to, or haven't done that in the past, or haven't had training to learn how to do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. More or less, like there are individuals who may not be tech savvy and kind of are afraid of it per se, and would like to stick to what they've been doing. So I'm just wondering if any feedback has.
Could we hear from a department or two on your perspective?
You know, I'm just wondering if there's anybody from codes here. Because I think that would be probably a department that certainly needs it. Not saying that you don't have great people and all that, but it might be difficult to integrate. Okay. They're tossing you the ball.
Sure, I can answer.
Handle
any
everything,
questions.
okay,
So-
for us?
What's that?
I said handle everything for us. Wait, I mean, no, really. I'm interested in finding out.
So we currently use GIS within some of the code enforcement operations. So the main way we do that is through an analysis of where is all of the work happening related to permits and code enforcement activities across the city. And we use that to figure out, based on workload, what do geographic catchment areas for assigning housing inspectors look like. So that's something we're able to do through the software program.
And it's working out fine?
Yeah, it's worked well. I think the expansion would give us an opportunity to, like Connor said, get more users using licenses, but then I think also think about ways to use these tools we haven't previously.
So down the road, we would be able to ask, how long does it take to turn a permit around for a building permit, for instance?
Yeah, I mean, I think those are things we can speak to now, but I think some of the geographic dimensions of that data, that's what we would be able to harness. And I think some of the features of where we'd be going with the advanced program, like I think one example might be with some of the in-field data collection capacity. So something that we worked on as part of the housing study was exterior kind of windshield survey of like what are the property conditions of this house. If we wanted to replicate that in the future, you know, without sort of this consultant capacity support, I think that's something we could, this would give us the tools to basically be able to replicate that study so we can, over time, have a good picture of what are our exterior housing conditions around
How many
the city.
people handle codes and permits as far as being able to input this data
In terms of GIS support?
Yeah.
So we have a codes data and mapping analyst that supports our code enforcement portfolio specifically. We have an NBD data and mapping analyst that focuses on other NBD divisions. And then all of our housing planners and
What
neighborhood
about
planners.
permits?
I don't know if there are any permitting folks that are, I'd have to confirm whether there are any GIS users in that
One,
department, but there's certainly folks who use tools that have been built with using the Esri products.
I'm sort of stressing the idea of integrating all these departments, especially to get a building permit. Sometimes you have to go through all the other departments, and Neil knows and all that. You know, I mean, this is where it would be really beneficial, but it's got to have a buy-in from everybody regarding it. I just want to, we have somebody else coming in.
That's also why I was asking about the software. Sorry. And I was just saying that's also why I was asking about the, I lost it again. What is it? The storage stuff.
The cloud data
No, not the
storage
cloud
or-
data.
the servers.
The servers,
Yep.
because even with integrating this more, are we sure that the system that they're currently using will be able to communicate with this system? Like, is
This
that?
would be a switch from one old system to a brand new system, so we would no longer need to use the old system.
Counselor, just to answer your question regarding the permits, Joanna Bailey, data analyst in the API office. I'm the one who coordinates all the seats for GIS, and we just had the permits office reach out, I think 2 months ago, and they're interested in getting things mapped, so I did set up one seat for them.
So they're getting on board, but they're
Yes,
not on
yep.
board yet. Okay.
There is one person actively in it right now, so.
Seeing a lot of heads nodding yes in the audience, so I'm guessing there's a lot of buy-in from the departments, but, you know, to what Corey said, or Councilor Williams said when we started, I don't think we can demand our people power be more efficient and then not give them the tools that they need to be more efficient, so this just feels like 2024 instead of the Post-it note world that I live in, where it's call Josh about broken parts, you know, so I like it.
And it's only going to get more technically, you know, complex down the road. So
Less Monto Post-it note world. and
less
more-
Post-it notes.
Right,
Yep,
right, right.
that's right.
A few comments ago, but Jason Scharf, data program manager with the API team. Just you were kind of discussing a little bit of like pain points of like, you know, wanting for this sort of system. And similar to, I've been helping mapping some of the fire department with, you know, working with the fire hydrants. And one of the pain points that we've had is for Joe, you know, just because water, there's two separate systems right now. If the water department's saying like, hey, this fire hydrant is not in service, it might not make its way to what the fire department uses for their current GIS system. And if the fire department notices an issue with a hydrant, right now there's not really a good flow of information to get back to water department to be like, hey, this one has an issue that we could fix. If we were in the same GIS system, it would make those sorts of identifying information back and forth going a lot better. So that was all I wanted to say. Thank you.
So Jason, and then Commissioner Awald mentioned some of the advancements that they've made in their water department usage of GIS software. That is fairly siloed from the rest of the city, and so this would really integrate those two, you know, into one system from two separate systems that they currently have today.
I'm all set. Anybody else?
Great. So, Councilwoman, do you have everything that you need to request that this item gets placed on the agenda for next week?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure, I'll revise the letter and try to get the budget transfer ready as soon as possible. And then I think it's up to you all to put it on the
So
agenda.
if we can get that straightened out, does anyone here have any problems with it making the agenda? Yep. And Tim, do you have an idea of a
I think I could
timeline
probably
on
have
that?
it tomorrow. Looking at Frank, but Frank's looking at his phone. The budget transfer, I could probably have ready tomorrow, right? We would know everything.
Yes, there'll be another request.
Excellent. Great.
All right.
And please feel free to reach out to me or any of the other departments if you have any questions you know, about any of this.
Wonderful.
Thanks, everybody, for showing
Thank you,
up.
everyone, for coming.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now get back to work.
Who's here from DPW? Because the light is.
I used the last of it this morning.
Oh, okay.
Jamie, let me ask you something.
Yes.
That's the stuff you gave me. I think you'll need a little bit.
Yeah.
2 years is last.